Thanks so much, Doug and Derek and John for this, and for all of you for coming. I'll say I've gotten to know Doug a little bit over the last several years, and I'm always completely humbled around him, not just by obviously his expertise and what he's accomplished here, but that he's dedicated his life to a cause that's so important to all of us. And I have one quick anecdote from a conversation I had with him, and I doubt you'll even remember this. I introduced him to my kids. One of them has type 1, the younger daughter, who does not, and they slipped away to go get some ice cream or something. And as soon as my daughter walked away, Doug said to my wife and me, "How is she doing?" The girl who does not have it. And that's one reason we're so lucky that Doug's involved in this, because this is a complicated disease. It's a complicated disease that affects families. And he noticed that there was a 12-year-old girl who was drifting off and not paying any attention, because it's always about type 1 diabetes, isn't it? And so I'm very humbled by what you do for us, and really, really appreciate it. The last question actually is a great segue, because look around the room. We are JDRF. You're looking at it. This is the group of people that has to figure out a way to cure this disease, and we all have different roles. I sure wish I knew more about science than I do, so there's nothing that I can do there, and fortunately we have Doug and an awful lot of other researchers. $14 million worth of JDRF money comes into Greater Boston, into Massachusetts every single year. There are an awful lot of people working really hard on that. We have literally hundreds of advocates and volunteers that spend a lot of time drawing attention to this disease, and to your question, we have to do a much better job at that. We have an awful lot of donors. We have great board members. Every one of us has to look around and look deep inside and figure out what we're going to do to solve this disease. Because if this group doesn't do it, it doesn't happen. And so what you're looking at in this room are the people that I like to refer to as those who are 0, 1, and 2 degrees of separation from this disease. They either have it themselves, 0 degrees, 1 degree, like the group of us that spoke tonight, and I suspect many of you in the room, and the 2nd degree, the grandparents, the coaches, the best friend's father, mother, those kind of folks. Those people are the ones that have to do the volunteering, and most importantly, have to give the money. There's literally no other way through this than that group of people to dig deep and give money. And so you knew this was going to happen. We've locked the doors. But in all seriousness, I'm going to ask you for a couple of things tonight. First, figure out how you can get involved in JDRF. You have information in your packets, and there's a lot of ways for you to get involved, whether it's volunteer, an advocate, or importantly as a donor. And that's really the second thing I'm going to ask you. I'm a huge advocate of great philanthropy, and I think all of us should try to expand our philanthropic wallet. I'm going to say, because you're here tonight, you're in the 0, 1, or 2 degrees of separation. I'm going to challenge you tonight to talk to yourself, talk to your spouse, talk to your partner, and make a decision tonight on the way home that the number one source of your philanthropy will be JDRF. I want you to think about that, and I'm going to ask you to decide to do it. Because if this group doesn't do it, we don't cure this disease. And so I suspect there's a lot of philanthropy in this room. I'm going to ask you to make JDRF your number one philanthropy. I'm also going to ask you to do something very fun and extraordinarily important to this organization and our awareness in the Boston area, and that is to come and join us on May 9th at our gala. This is shaping up to be what I hope will be our most successful gala ever. About 5 years ago, we raised $2.3 million in one night, which was extraordinary. We haven't done it since. We haven't topped $2 million. We're going to do it again this year. We're getting there, but we need help. And so if you haven't RSVP'd to come, I'd like you to do that. If you haven't asked your friends to come, I'd like you to buy a table, and I'd like you to have them come too. And I'd like you to think of all of the people in the extended network, because this is a village disease. It's a family disease. Think of your friends, coaches, the ones that say, you got to check Finn in the 5th inning. He's not going to want to check, but you got to have him check his sugar in the 5th inning. And think of that coach that looked out for him. He's going to want to come to the gala, and I'll bet you he will raise a paddle and he will give money to this organization. So I'm going to stop there. We may unlock the doors at some point later this evening. Amy is in the back. She's the one in the gray sweater. You can just pass her the checks. But I really would like you to, I'd really like you to think about this, and on the way home, decide to make this your number one charity. Thank you very much for coming tonight, and Doug, thank you.